People have described you more as a consultant than a politician, the man behind the economic wheel of Delta State. As we go into the home stretch of this administration, how would you describe the economic policy thrust of Governor Okowa in Delta State?
It's a mixed bag because what we met on ground, even though previous administrations did their best, was a bit worrisome, and we needed to give the administration and the economy a proper focus. So the whole essence is to refocus the economy. Yes, we're oil producing, but we also realize that well, oil does not provide up to 30% of jobs for our people, and yet we have a surging and youthful population. We then decided that we'll create jobs for our people. Agric skill acquisition became the issues. We also believe that we could also, because of the decadence in our infrastructure, which is a countrywide challenge, we thought that when we focus on urban renewal, rural-urban connectivity through bridges and roads, we should be able to open up those spaces, create more jobs, and promote agriculture. We also believe that with the creation of more markets, we're beginning to provide avenues for people to stockpile most of their agri products. We also believe that apart from training individuals, we should also establish technical institutions to drive them. We believe that within the medium to long term, we could as well focus on commercial agriculture and industrialization. And this 7 years has seen us almost surpassing our expectation. A big challenge, a bit slow starting up, but today I can tell you that with well over 1,800 kilometers of road awarded and over 70% of it completed, and over 997 kilometers of drains within the same environment in Delta State in 7 years, and over 20,000 kilometers of roads in the River Rhine. I think we have a lot to show for what we have done. In terms of jobs, we have created over close to 13,000 entrepreneurs. By our last count, it was 10,000. In the last 3 months, we have had job creation come up with 1,000 graduates celebrated. We have had RISA come up with 810 graduates. We have also had Podejess come up with about the same figure. So when we make projections, we work with them. We have a development plan, and we are following that deployment. It's a compass for us, and it's guiding us effectively. So the thrust of this economy today is an integrated, we're focusing on integrated development. That integrated development talks about human capital development, road infrastructure, all physical infrastructure, school renovations, school content issues, roads, and indeed human reconstruction. And that's where we are. We have not, we have focused significantly on the health sector. And we do know that the only way to penetrate the health sector is through contributory health scheme. Today in Nigeria, we're celebrated. We have crossed the 100 million mark. And this was part of the deliverables that His Excellency the Governor promised when he was to come in 2019. He said well over 20% of the population of Delta State will be enrolled under the contributory health scheme. We're over 1 million, and we still have about a year to go. So we're pursuing that very vigorously. We have over 510 primary healthcare centers focusing on that. We're beginning to have affiliations with a lot of private sector intervention in that direction. That a healthy nation is a wealthy nation. And that's also beginning to create a lot of jobs in our environment. So if you ask me to put it in a nutshell, I would say is a period of reconstruction, a period of refocusing, a period of rejuvenation, and stabilizing To tell you the truth, if there's any state in this country, in this entire country, that has done up to 1,800 kilometers of road, I will doubt that state. We have a data. You have access to our scorecard. We are digitizing the scorecard, where all of those things will be brought to the public. We have well over 21 or 22 bridges that we're building, all to interlink, interconnect the communities. There's this current interchange at the goods exchange rate, and you know what that will mean to the economy of Delta State. Today, Asaba is one of the fastest growing cities, one of them in the country. We are not a one-city state. We are over a 10-city state. 10-city states, that's what we are. So when you hear that there's a road in Rumo Kroshi, a bridge in Rumo, all of them is just in one enclave called Port Harcourt. But we have over 10, 11, still counting number of cities in Delta State. And we have infrastructure to show for it. It's easy to make comments about infrastructure. It's easy to say you have received so much, but when it comes to implementation, that's what separates the boys from the men, and that's where we are. I will give a lot of accolades to His Excellency the Governor, who is the team lead of this wonderful group. Thank you.
Speaking of integrated economic policy, and quite specifically, there is this 150 billion naira loan, which was nicknamed Bridging Finance Facility. What has necessitated this much money at this time that this administration is winding up?
At times, because people are insensitive or ignorant of the well-publicized business development plan of the state, economic blueprint of the states. So I'm beginning to think that we should do more sensitization. It's foolish economics to have 270 billion naira in promissory note. They are receivables from federal government, discountable. To have them and still have this current huge overrun in terms of prices, in terms of inflation, in terms of devaluation. We have not hidden, the governor is an obvious and a well-known roadmaster. You're a roadmaster, you don't have all the resources to do all of those. And that's a statement of fact. But you're running on goodwill because you are also meeting your obligation reasonably. But we're far from completing our obligations. And then if we're not going to do most of the projects that were clearly stated and spelled out to the world, there was a press conference on this, then we would have been drowned. First is that you don't have those physical infrastructure that you want to put out in those places. Two, if you have to have them, the prices will double, triple. Go to the market today, there is no electrical person or a plumber or cement man that can give you a forward rate. Any price they give to you is within 1 hour or 2 hours. By the time you come back, it's gone. That is what the environment is. And it is not the fault of the state. It's because we are not productive. It's not that we're not exporting. If we exported more, we'll get more foreign exchange. There's no backward integration. And that's why you have this huge challenge of having to spend so much money on things you can otherwise produce locally. Petroleum, oil palm, cassava, sugar, starch, industrial starch. And yet our ecology is favorable or amenable to all of these things. So we are a state that plan. We have all our exposures on the dashboard. And when we got a windfall, if you like, we're sustained. We're not alone. Under the 30% derivation. And we got 273 or thereabout billion. And we said, this is good for us. What we're barely doing is receivable discounting. And somebody who is totally and completely ignorant goes to air that with 1 year to go, what does that mean? He has a mandate for 8 years. And this governor has said, I'm going to work till the last second. And we support him to work till the last second because he's a focused governor. And that's a statement of fact. So it will have meant foolish economics to have a receivable and go and borrow bare or allow those infrastructure to die. 1 year down the line, the repayment pattern as advised by the federal government talked about 60 months on a quarterly basis. All we did was net present value of money. You discount future for today And you are better off doing that. By the way, this will be one major government. I've had them celebrate Peter Obi for keeping behind, making an investment of $12 million. We have already made investment of $38 billion in FLNG, UTM offshore. Even in this critical period, we could have diverted that money. But because we are doing an integrated development, we decided that as a state, that this is direction. The governor does not take decision all by himself. He brings it to the economic team and throws it at us. And we do advisory. He listens, and Okowa listens. And that's exactly where we are. Nobody has sang that song. He went to the House of Assembly to get their resolution and consent. Nobody has praised that there's a 20 billion, an equivalent of 38 billion, 5%. We actually we advised the governor to take 10%. And it is better to borrow today, right? And reap tomorrow. The beauty of it is that it's discountable. It's a first mover advantage. So we've gotten at the nick of time. Since we closed that deal, the valuation of that, the price of that project has skyrocketed. We have gained, if we needed to discount that transaction today, we'll get back, we have gotten over 20% markup and profit on that project. We advised the governor to do 10% of that. But he chose to do 5% in the first instance, and I'm convinced that we're going to do the balance. It is not, the benefit does not come to this administration, but it's for the betterment of the states. This was the same thing that happened when Sovereign Wealth Fund was being established, and all the 36 governors went to court, and it was settled out of table. Today, that's our fallback position, our Sovereign Wealth Fund. That is the reserve that you have. So this government is not just spending. Even of that 270 billion, so much more is still left. And so much more is being put out for investments and meeting current obligations. How dare we sit back, fold our arms, because we have some jaundiced critics, and we will not do what we should do. It's sub judice. I'm not talking about the legal aspect, what is in court. I'm telling you about the facts and the guiding principles behind this investment. So it's only foolish economics to have that, fold your arms because of criticisms. No, we won't do that. And we will never do that.
On the projects on ground, let's talk about the International Conference Center. Criticism has been pouring into that initiative. Critics will question the need for an international conference center when there is an existing event center of good standard. What is the economic value of International Conference Center to Delta State when there are other projects competing for funds?
Again, I think that we need to get Commissioner for Information to do more sensitization, because I think that if there was significant public education, even though you did anyway, some of them will still come up with the fact that it is not necessary. Look, we are looking at the integrated development. When this airport was being concessioned, you heard the hue and cry. This airport has tripled traffic in and out. It has tripled that traffic that we used to have. We used to spend about 500 million naira in the past a year with less than 20% revenue accruable. We don't spend a dime anymore. Only recently, they have funded a 2.3 billion naira street lights from Isla Azagba to Bridgehead, just to ensure. And they're getting directly involved under corporate social responsibility in trying to decongest the route for them to have a free access. The airport is a better place than when we met it. It's more profitable. It's driving the economy. That traffic has moved. Asaba has become a conference city. They can't see it because they don't feel it. An international conference center has a multiplicity of halls. Event center is just one simple street hall that can seat 2,000 people. We're talking about a conference center that will be manned by major world-class facility managers because they had a major input in the drawing. This can only create more jobs, because where they anchor their challenge is on should have been spent, people are hungry. But you can't, because of stomach infrastructure, not do the things that are more enduring that will provide jobs for the people. We just told here we have created well over close to 13,000 entrepreneurs. We have I'm not talking about direct job interventions of over 100,000 and over 1 million. And each time I say, they ask me, Kingsley, where are these jobs? If you do 1,800 kilometers of road and about 977 kilometers of drains, the immediate consequence is that labor is surplus along those areas. And within the ILO definition of job creation, we have met that. We have trained a lot of technical people. Or do you know the number of artisans who will be plying their trade at that location? You can only imagine. Do you know the number of people who will work there? Do you know the number of people who will take up a lot of offices? Do you know today, whether you like it or not, Asaba has become a major center for conferences. Go and ask any hotelier that is worth its salt. On a daily basis, they are having over 60-70% occupancy. And that's pressure. It is one of the fastest growing cities. So, International Conference Center complements the airports. If we spend so much money to do the airports, have gotten the signature bonus, with our fees, there's a residency blue coming to that area. That also gives it another. If you throw in a 400 man event or 500 man event in Asaba, you have crisis immediately on hotel bookings and reservations. It's shallow. So the International Conference Center will give a massive boost, make this place a heaven or a destination for conferencing, and that comes with a lot of advantages. And one of the greatest attractions, and why Asaba also has a tremendous growth potentials, and is showing so, is because of safety. The entire country is unsafe. You agree with me that Asaba is significantly safe. And that's attracting a lot of businesses. All our brothers in Anambra, most of them have their properties here and everything here. Events that ought to take place in Anambra because of a sit down and a few things are all taking place in this place. With the conference center, with this airport, with huge capacity, when they took over this airport, it was almost threatened to be downgraded. Today they have gotten the critical firefighters, the Kronenberg and the Zieglers that has elevated us to even the targeted 6th grade aircraft that can drop, that can land 737s and all that. Asaba Airport is running. When we say integrated development, the International Conference Center only complements what we have started. It's a journey. You create this, it attracts this, and the people benefit. Go to the airport today and see the number of car hires that run around there. Go to the airport today and see the number of sale points that are there. Come to town in the evening when you have airport hiccups, flight hiccups, and see how hotels are bombarded. Those are developments that we're talking about. And when we're concessioning this airport, the whole world, this same disgruntled group of people were at their best screaming. We have started this again. They are screaming. Now let me tell you another one, which will come to them again. ESCO has also approved a 45 billion naira guarantee support to DELCOP, to the oil palm, to promote the oil palm initiative. Delta is one of the oil palm belts. The CBN has a program of developing the oil palm in Nigeria, because there's currently a supply gap of well over 500 metric tons, which also translates to about 500 million metric tons, which translates to about $500 million gap in supply. So we are saying technically that even though our ecology supports this, there has not been deliberate development plan to deepen the production of oil palm and produce oil palm and its derivatives. That's exactly what it is. Malaysia came here to take samples. Malaysia is well ahead. Nigeria is not anymore anywhere it should be. Today, of the 1.4 million hectares of land that the CBN had planned, Delta State is taking up about 34,571, slightly close to 35,000. And when that is achieved, if you multiply 8 workers to 1 hectare, that gives you in excess of 500,000 workers that will work in those environments. And that's exactly what it is. Our primary financial institution is FCMB. The CBN has approved the transaction. But the primary financial institution says, break it up into two, so that it will be a phased development. And the first phase is about 17,000, which is half of the 34,500. And this is cross-cutting. What did we do? We have 41 commercial palm oil commercial farmers in Delta State that are part of this DELCOP. It's incorporated. And then we have 1,971 small farm holders, smallholder farms, that's what they call them, who have 3 hectares and above, who have come together to form a cooperative. What's their guarantee? No bank agreed to fund them. So what's their guarantee? We decided to do a land order. What's land order? All your unamortized, all your title, all your rights in all the land that you have, the Delta State government undertook to put them together and perfect it, and everybody signed the agreement in the union. So you have a union of 2,012 people, comprising of 1,971 small house farm holders, small holder farmers, and 41 commercial farmers. The former chairman, MD of Makinde is the chairman of that cooperative. We have cleared that documents. The state government, it will pay the 2 tranches of 25 billion and 20 billion. We're only doing an ISPO. It's a federal government through central bank initiative. We shall be going to the House very soon. That is something that touches the heart of people. That's not something that anybody is putting money into his pocket. You know that we are a recognizable oil palm belts in Nigeria. Why can't we benefit from it? Okowa is doing it. Even as a state, we are partnering with Nosworthy. Nosworthy has over 2,000 hectares of oil palm in partnership with Delta State to run those projects. So this DELCOP program is a well-coordinated program that has 4 mills, offtake guarantees, all the securities that you have to monitor the entire stuff. What does that mean? A liter of crude palm oil, which is what you use in cooking, is about 1,500 naira. Higher than your crude, higher than anything you want to talk about. And a liter of the refined one goes for between 2,500 to 2,700, and they have the integrated facilities to run that. So in the next 3 years as we speak, or 4 years as we speak, because of gestation period, once it starts, 3-4 years maturity, once it starts maturing, you are going to see a new crop of people who have been elevated beyond, when we say Delta beyond oil, we didn't say beyond crude oil. We say yes, beyond crude oil. We didn't say beyond oil palm. Oil palm is a new oil, and we have gas. I've just told you that we have invested over $38 million in equity. So that's gas. And in the other one, we're also investing in people who have potentials to take that project to the next level. And that should be remarkable to you.
Having initiated the projects done, ongoing or in the pipeline, but there are other projects which are considered initiated but abandoned. Kwale Industrial Park is a case in hand. What is the fate of Kwale Industrial Park and other projects within that bracket?
Okay, it's not, most of these projects, like I have mentioned, are not just projects in the pipeline. I can tell you. The gestation period for putting them together, since 2017, we have been on this initiative on the oil palm before we arrived at a financial decision, investment decision. So we are there, it's concluded, we're gone on it. CBN has approved. It's just for us to get a resolution and then move on. So now back to your question. You recall that we even took a trip on Kwale Industrial Park as part of our revolution to create industrial parks that are gas-based because of the advantage position that we find ourselves. The OB3 is located around Kwale, and that is the interconnectivity with gas and all that is so short that the cost of infrastructure will be next to nothing, and that automatically drives down the unit cost of price for gas. And we have not shied away from that project. We've got a World Bank, a world-class company to look at all the drawings, and then went on a roadshow. No sooner that we came back with all the promises than COVID hit the streets running. COVID has turned the world into something else. It's not limited to Delta State. But we have not given hope on it. We have come up with different variants on how we can kickstart that because of the potentials that we have. Today we have a company that we're prospecting. We have, I'll disclose, we have an EML on the nail factory in that area. Today, the federal government, we have acquired that 1,000 hectares, about 970 hectares in that axis. We're working with NEPSA. We're almost through to be able to acquire that status, a free trade status. And you know what a free trade status should do. We are working with African Development Bank to come up to, with their agro-processing centers in those environments, and that's very critical to us. And that area is a hub for us. We are resuscitating the cocoa because it's just a merger. Once we have that license, it covers all of these areas. That's one leg. So that is even on its own begin to make that area very attractive. And how attractive is that? People are talking about power. People are talking about a free trade zone. A free trade zone confers some level of duty-free in terms of imports to those areas. And that's very critical, both in terms of equipment, in terms of material. But when you export, but you also know that irrespective of the fact that it's export based, there's also level of backward integration into the country. What have we done? We've divided that place into two sections: the free trade zone area and the Kwale Industrial Park zone area. About 150 hectares were significantly designed for Kwale Industrial Park area. Why are we doing that? We're doing that to promote local trade. Because we believe that it's, in terms of proximity to Onitsha, that's the best that we have. Access to power, fine. Unlimited power supply, and because of our location, fine. So we have not left the ceramic plant transaction, which was the anchor, because we still need a lot of anchors to come to that location. Because for you to start investing in power, you must have off-takers, PPAs. You understand? And to be able to do that, you must have a GSPA with even Nigerian Gas Nigerian Gas Company. All of those we're doing, and all of these have taken shape. What has not happened is it's a groundbreaking, and once one starts, others follows. We have an organized marketing team that are looking at all those areas. It's a challenge, but we are focusing on the challenge. Agro-industrial park is almost 70% complete. The governor visited there last time. It's also another initiative that will create a platform for you to have processors to come into that platform and do your processing plant. That's about 180, used to be 220, but it's now 180 because 40 hectares were sent back, were given back to the community, Washiku communities, I mean, just to make sure you have peace and get them to also do their level of farming in those environments. So, in any case, government is a continuum. I'm not saying we won't jumpstart that business before we leave. In the event that we can't, it is still a project whose time has come and we must focus on. If you don't create industrial hubs, then you are not utilizing gas-based, then you're not utilizing the potentials that you have. Some of the aspirants who contested election were saying that, also commended His Excellency to say that they're going to build more industrial hubs that are gas-based. So it means that we're on the right track. But like you always say, and like people always know, everything you plan for don't work out the same day. Once they come up and you have all those hiccups, you work around them to make sure that you restructure that project and refocus it for results. So Kwale Industrial Park It's on course. By the way, I'm the chairman of the Kwale Industrial Park committee. Yes. So yeah. So on Wednesday, we shall be having a meeting here with all the vendors to review the conditions presented to us by EML for the new nail factory, because they have a nail factory right here, but for export nails. The attraction, the free trade zone status, because they're an export-based people. 2, gas, cheaper source of gas, and that's what we're selling. So they can as well become the first anchor on that platform. But we need to have the NEFSA thing running and a few other things running to get them running.
I'm deliberately going to look for blames to pass around. The Delta State Governor, Senator Emu Kingsley, is being filmed for sagacity in politics and politicking, but not much has come his way by his exploits in managing the economy. What quarters do you think I should begin to apportion this blame?
We have talked about this. It's not too much to talk more on it. You won't be overflogging it. We have scorecards which have been circulated everywhere. However, the circulation we also realize is limited. We are creating a digital scorecard and a website where everybody can look to and refer to what we're doing. We have been on television. Smart Delta has been on television ever, showcasing all of these projects. You understand? We have been doing that. I'm not saying it's sufficient as it appears now, but even if you carry the entire document and hand over to journalist critics, it doesn't make any difference. But in the interest of Deltans, only a month ago, His Excellency had to approve for us to run a digital scorecard to reduce everything we have on paper there for the world to see. And maybe so much emphasis will be placed on that. Again, you will have some more excuses, but on our own part, we want to meet all the minimum requirements that we have to, just to make sure that we get to where the governor is. The governor says it. On roads, he talks about it. On bridges, he talks about it. Most of this infrastructure are not invisibles. They're talking about International Conference Center. It's not invisible. We're talking of this Greek thing now. We have had approvals. ESCO has briefed. The appointer has talked about it. We're going to the house. There will be a resolution. Somebody comes out and say, for something like 150 billion, nobody's talking about it. I also hear that the new propagandist hired by the DSP is beginning to tread on the path that he treaded as a spokesperson to Jonathan. In Delta, we talk about facts. You can lie on other things. If you want to lie on the economy, you meet us for a debate. And we put all the issues on the table. If we tell you we have done 1,000 of our 1,800 kilometers, we're going to tell you to the minutest local government where it is. If we tell you about 21 bridges, we're going to tell you those who are inherited, those who have started, and their states. That's what the digital scorecard will produce. It's going to be telling you practically everything. You're saying we have received over 770 billion naira. Where our exposure on infrastructure is in excess of 600 billion. So you're not even referring to we just got a windfall of 270 billion. We are talking about 770. We're just discounting a bit to meet obligations. We're linking communities. We're stemming rural urban drifts. Agriculture is booming. Interconnectivity. Jobs are coming up. There's a challenge. Our indices are not the best, but you operate within a national. And we're sandwiched, we're a gateway to the east, and we're a gateway to the south. And our neighbors, you know what it is. It takes a long time to fend them off. Yes. But we're withering the storm, and we remain Delta. And the governor remains focused on what he's doing. We're waiting. Election is coming. We'll have scorecards. If it's a debate, we'll sit out there and debate the developments in Delta State, what we met, how we have turned them around, what we're leaving behind. Obi is celebrated for $12 million. We have done $38 million, and we're still going to do more. Many more before we leave. And the investments, it's foolish economics to have your money and keep them for savings and go to bank and borrow. You have a receivable, discount them and turn your money around. Money is fungible. We will not relent in doing the right things. And this governor will work to the last second.